Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 3 tight end start or sit decisions. Inside today's video, I'll be talking about every single game in week number 3, and I'll be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the tight ends in all of those matchups. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. I would also like to ask that if you guys have any questions for fantasy football in week number 3, it doesn't even have to relate to tight ends, please make sure that you ask down below in the comment section. I love talking to you guys down there. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 3 tight end start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. In this game, the only tight end I want to be starting is Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth has been a key piece inside of this offense thus far through the first 2 games, as Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky has been the quarterback. Chase Claypool as well as George Pickens haven't really had that much involvement in the offense, and besides Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson, it doesn't really seem like Mitch Trubisky wants to throw it to anyone else. So Pat Freiermuth up against the Browns, even in a low-scoring game, is definitely a startable tight end. Would I rank him close to the top 5? No, because I don't believe this to be a very high-scoring game. But at the end of the day, I do think Freiermuth is pretty safe, so I'm going to fire him up against the Browns. Through the first 2 games of the season, David Njoku has been an absolute snoozer of a player for fantasy football. In week 1 and in week number 2, David Njoku was far from an ideal start, basically doing nothing in either of those games. So unless something changes and magically Jacoby Brissett just starts firing the ball off to David Njoku until Deshaun Watson returns, I really do not believe that you should be relying on David Njoku at all, and more than likely, you should probably just cut him. Next up, we move to the beginning of the Sunday slate with the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. The Saints use both Juwan Johnson as well as Taysom Hill. In week number 1, Taysom Hill looked really solid, but in week number 2, despite the fact that famous Jameis Winston was banged up, we didn't really see any Taysom Hill, and like I said in the week 2 tight end video, it almost felt like a fluke that Taysom Hill had that much usage in the game. And again, in week number 2, Jameis didn't play very well. Jameis was banged up, and still, Taysom Hill was watching from the sideline. So I think every single week, Taysom Hill is a huge liability in your roster, so I do not think you should be starting him. Juwan Johnson has been seeing some decent targets, but until he eclipses like 10 points, there's really no reason to be starting him. And for the Panthers, they have Ian Thomas as well as Tommy. Make that ass tremble. Neither of them are worthy of being starters. Baker Mayfield isn't really looking all that good, and it's not like Baker Mayfield is someone who targets the tight end position heavily. Next up, we move to the Houston Texans at the Chicago Bears. Here we have another case of not wanting to start any of the tight ends. Now, honestly, I think I would rather stand at the bottom of the stairs as Lizzo fell down the stairs and got smushed by her before I wanted to start Cole Kmet, because Cole Kmet is complete and utter dog shit. Not because of him, but because the Bears don't throw the fucking ball. The Bears barely throw the ball every single game. It is bad. It's basically like the Bears are playing offense like they are stuck in the 1930s, or like they are one of the Army, Navy, Air Force teams in college football who just run the ball every single play. It is fucking embarrassing. And until Justin Fields starts throwing the ball more than like 7 times a game, I don't want anything to do with Cole Kmet. I know he's not actually throwing 7 times a game, but I hope you get my point. Things aren't looking the greatest for these Bears pass catchers, at least right now. And if I'm being honest with you, Cole Kmet is not a guy that I'd be holding on my roster. I cut him on one of my teams already, and I would advise you to do the exact same thing unless you have like this crazy deep bench where you can just hold him. The Texans are dealing with an injury to Brevin Jordan. Whether he plays or not does not really affect my opinion on him or OJ Howard. These are just like tight end 28 through 32 level players. Sure, they could score a touchdown. We saw OJ Howard score 2 touchdowns in week number 1, but how likely is that to happen up against the Bears? Not very likely at all. So they're definitely both going to be sits for me. Next up, we move to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Indianapolis Colts, and you already guessed it, you're going to be firing up Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce in week number 1 absolutely skull-fucked the Arizona Cardinals. In week number 2, he didn't really show up that well. He got some points, didn't go crazy, but every single week you're starting Travis Kelce. I don't even care if he's facing up against the 85 Bears. Travis Kelce is still having the upside of having a huge game. The Colts look dead in the water. The Colts look awful. They're sleeping with the fishes right now. Could they bounce back in this game? Maybe, because everyone and their mother is on the Chiefs, which makes me start to worry about the Colts potentially having a big game. But as of right now, this game could easily just be a 50 Shades of Grey level domination. Mo Alley Cox, my boy, is going to be a sit here up against the Chiefs. Next up, we move to the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. Right now, I read that Dawson Knox is dealing with a bit of an injury, but I feel like Dawson Knox will be good to go in this game. Now, through the first 2 weeks of the season, Dawson Knox, one time, if you are with me, has been atrocious. Dawson Knox has not been targeted. It is almost shocking that the team paid him all that money. They backed up the Brinks truck. They gave him one of those comically large checks that they give when you win the, what is that called? Like the lottery. When you win the lottery, that's what they gave him. And yet he's not really involved. It's kind of shocking. I think this will be a high-scoring game between the Bills and the Dolphins. If Xavier Howard locks up Stephon Diggs, which will be tough, then Dawson Knox could have a fantastic game. Am I very confident in Dawson Knox right now? No. Entering into the season, I would have been ecstatic for a game like this that's going to be high scoring. Thinking Dawson Knox might score 3 fucking touchdowns in this game. But as of right now, what we've seen, I am a little bit worried about Dawson Knox. Mike Licky Amagasiki has appeared to escape the doghouse in Miami. It appears they realize that the guy is just such a good wide receiver that it doesn't matter if he can't block. He scores a crucial touchdown, hits the worst gritty of all time up against the Baltimore Ravens, but he scored. So I'm going to wait one more week. I want to see how involved Gesicki is up against the Bills. Is it like what we saw last week, or is it more of like what we saw in week number 1? Because if it's more like week 2 up against the Ravens, then Mike Gesicki could be a weekly startable tight end every single week. That's what it would mean if he's a weekly starter. Next up, we move to the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. And I came across this when I was watching the game on Monday. I didn't really notice Irv Smith in week 1 because he didn't really do anything in that matchup. But in week 2, Irv Smith dropped a crucial pass. Who the fuck allowed Irv Smith to wear number 84? How is that allowed? How can Irv Smith wear Randy Moss's number? How is his number not whatever it's called, where they retire his number? His number's not retired. What is that? Randy Moss is one of the best, if not the best wide receiver to ever grace the fucking earth, and the guy's number isn't retired, and you let Irv fucking Smith wear it? I'd be like, oh, if Justin Jefferson's wearing it, you know what? That's okay. Justin Jefferson's amazing. Irv fucking Smith is wearing that jersey. Irv Smith was targeted more in week number 2. He had a silent night in week number 1, but I think going forward, Irv Smith is a fringe start-worthy tight end. TJ Hawkinson, you're going to be starting every single week. You just know he has crazy touchdown upside and crazy upside as a whole because he is a nice target for this Detroit Lions team. I do really believe this could be a back-and-forth affair between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings, especially since it's not a night game for Kirk Cousins, so you know he's going to ball out at 1 p.m., so I like TJ Hawkinson as well as Irv Smith. Obviously, though, I'm a lot more confident when it comes to Hawkinson compared to Smith. Next up, we move to the Baltimore Ravens at the New England Patriots. As a Dolphins fan who was watching that game with a keen eye, I was paying attention to Red Zone, watching other games as well, but Mark Andrews took the Dolphins to Pound Town. This motherfucker scores. They say, oh, he didn't score. And then the next play, he scores. The guy was all over the Dolphins defense. They literally had no answer to this man. For the first 3 quarters of the game, Mark Andrews stomped all over the Dolphins. In the 4th quarter, they kind of locked him up. They figured something out. But early on, he had a field day. I honestly don't think the Patriots have a single answer, a single solution to stopping Mark Andrews having an insane game in week number 3. I honestly would not be surprised at all if Mark Andrews finished this week as the number 1 overall tight end. Again, I think the Patriots defense is decent, but I don't really think they're going to be able to stop Mr. Mock Andrews. Hunter Henry has been one of the biggest disappointments in fantasy football for me. Last year, he was good, but he was only really good because he was scoring so many touchdowns. I assumed that the Patriots would eventually just figure it out, and even if they don't figure it out, when they get to the red zone, when they march their way up there, then Mac Jones is just going to continue to pepper the ball to Hunter Henry, just like he did in 2021 in Mac Jones' rookie year. That has not been the case at all this season. Hunter Henry has been nowhere to be found. He's doing his best Houdini, doing his best John Cena impression, because you cannot see him. Hunter Henry in week 3 up against the Ravens defense. I know Gesicki looked good against them, but if I'm being honest with you, this Patriots offense is bleak. With Matt Patricia calling the plays, things aren't looking great for the Patriots. Hooray, you beat the Steelers. Congrats, the Steelers are absolute dog shit. The Patriots are going to get rolled by the Ravens on Sunday. The Bengals at the New York Jumbo Jets. And I am shocked that I am sitting here today and telling you that Tyler Conklin is a start-worthy tight end in fantasy football. Cool Joe Flacco loves this guy. He probably has you take his shirt off. Remember, actually, maybe his leg. Is that where Rex Ryan has the I love Mark Sanchez tattoo on his thigh? That's probably what Cool Joe Flacco has for Tyler Conklin, because Tyler Conklin continues to get targeted all game long. Elijah Moore must be just taking a sleep or something, taking a nice nap. Took too much NyQuil, but Tyler Conklin just keeps on balling. So I'm going to start Tyler Conklin again. He probably isn't going to get 70 yards and a touchdown, but he might get 10 targets, 7 catches, 40 yards, and be a very viable tight end this week up against the Bengals, because reasonably, while the Bengals have been pretty dog shit recently, you would assume that they're going to be beaten down on the Jets, and the Jets are going to have to be throwing the ball. Cool Joe Flacco is going to be throwing the ball late on in the game. Hayden Hurst continues to be a part of the game plan both week 1 and week number 2 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Hayden Hurst is pretty similar to Tyler Conklin, because unless Hayden Hurst scores, I don't really see him being like a top 5, top 6 tight end. But again, he does get enough volume to where he's able to be a start-worthy tight end every single week. Again, are either of these guys world beaters? No, but they're definitely guys that in a pinch you can throw into your lineup. I'm starting Tyler Conklin in one of my leagues this week. Next up, we move to the, turn your volume down, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Le Titans, the Tennessee Titans. Austin Hooper was one of those targets that if I didn't draft a tight end in fantasy football, I was targeting him. Because Austin Hooper, it appeared from training camp that him and Tannehill, Fraud right now, they have a good connection. Like, all right, I like Hooper. I've liked him in the NFL for a couple of years. He hasn't really been the best recently, but I think he's a good player. So why not let me take a shot at him, especially in these best ball tournaments where it's like 18 or 20 rounds. Around 18, you just take a shot on Austin Hooper. If it hits, it's awesome. If it doesn't hit, it is what it is. He has not been really involved at all. This Titans offense moves at the speed of turtles fucking extremely slow. It is embarrassing how bad the Titans offense is. Both of these teams are 0-2, but one of these teams has one of the best tight ends in the league, Darren Waller, and the other has Austin fucking Hooper. So Darren Waller is obviously going to be a start this week. He's a start every week. I know this Raiders offense has been very hit or miss through the first 2 weeks of the season, especially in week number 2. I don't know how they didn't close the casket on the Arizona Cardinals. I understand, oh, but Nick, the defense choked. Well, the offense couldn't move the ball at all after they were winning by, it was either 20-0 or 21-0, something like that. They had a humongous lead. Huge lead. And they just couldn't shut the door. Darren Waller, I think, has a decent game. Austin Hooper, definitely going to be a sit for me. Next up, we move to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders. Another game where I like both of the tight ends, or maybe this is even the first game, actually, where I like both of the tight ends. In a lot of these games, I haven't even been wanting to start the tight ends. Dallas Goedert continues to be one of the bigger targets on the team for the Eagles. When A.J. Brown shits the bed, again, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't the guy you thought he was going to be up against the Washington not the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders, who they're playing right now, up against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday. He wasn't that great. Dallas Goedert was still fine. He's going to be seeing 4, 5, 6 targets a game. You're never really going to expect the Kelsey stat line. It's hard to expect the Kelsey stat line out of many players, but he's going to be decent. He's going to be start-worthy, and this game has the writing on the wall right now tells me that this is going to be a high-scoring tit-for-tat type of a game. Again, I will continue to reiterate that I am quite worried about the Commanders in this game because this is a revenge game for Carson Wentz, and thus far this season, every single revenge game narrative has went wrong. Russell Wilson versus Seattle. Russell Wilson did not look amazing. We had a revenge game last week as well that didn't go very well. Baker Mayfield didn't play very well, so it's kind of worrisome. Again, Carson Wentz is doing really good this year, so I hope he puts up a big game here, but I am slightly worried about the revenge game being too much. Like, Jameis played like shit up against the Bucs last week. That's the other revenge game I was talking about. But Logan Thomas does appear to be pretty viable in this offense. Again, neither of these guys are world beaters at the tight end position, but they're both definitely start worthy, especially based on what I've seen out of the Commanders with Logan Thomas. Next up, we move to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Los Angeles Chargers. Here, I'm going to be firing up both tight ends. Evan Ingram has actually been catching the ball and not dropping it. Huge round of applause for Evan Ingram. I made so many jokes throughout this motherfucker's career. Ever since I started making videos like 4 years ago, I've been talking about 4 years ago. That's crazy. I've been talking about how Evan Ingram is one of the most athletic and skilled tight ends in the NFL once he catches the football. The issue with the guy is that he had a case of the dropsies. He had a case of the butterfingers, and he kept dropping the ball every single time, and it was hard to watch. And even in training camp, we're getting, oh, Lawrence has a fantastic day, but Ingram dropped 3 passes. Dropped 3 passes in training camp. It's not even like the lights were too bright for the guy like it is for Kirk Cousins. It's just he wasn't performing. But recently, the first 2 games, he's looked good. So I'll fire out Evan Ingram again. He's one of those bottom of the barrel level start guys. Gerald Everett, I'm pretty excited about. It does appear that Keenan Allen may be good to go on Sunday up against the Jaguars. Now, right now, it seems like we're too far away. Today's Wednesday as I'm recording this to actually know if Keenan Allen's going to be good to go or not. Based upon what I've seen out of Keenan Allen in the past, someone who's been watching football for a while, I feel like if I was the Chargers, I know the Jaguars just upset the Colts, but the Colts are not the Chargers. The Chargers are a significantly better team. So with Justin Herbert, the pervert, banged up, I wouldn't really want to be chancing things with Mr. Keenan Allen in this game, and I'd probably just bench him. But again, I'm not an NFL coach. I don't necessarily know what they're going to do. Even if Keenan Allen plays, though, which is kind of the point of this whole monologue I'm going on right now, is that I do believe that Gerald Everett is still a start-worthy tight end. He could have scored last week, obviously. Justin Herbert throws the pick 6, 99 yards to the crib from the Chiefs corner, Justin Watson, I believe his name was. If that's not his name, shoot me, whatever, it is what it is. But Gerald Everett does look good in this matchup up against the Jaguars. I would have him ranked much higher than Evan Ingram, and my quarterback and tight end rankings will be out on Saturday. Make sure if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far that you do hit that like button as well as that subscribe button down below. It helps me out a ton. I would also like to ask that if you guys are on Twitter to follow me. And real quick, I do want to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor of today's video over at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Stokastic. Are your best ball teams already cooked? Well, head on over to Underdog Fantasy to resurrect them with their Week 6 through 17 best ball tournament. The entry fee is only $10 with $500,000 in total prize money and $100,000 going to first place. All you got to do is draft your team. That's it. You don't have to worry about doing the waivers on Tuesday night. You don't have to worry about calling up your buddy to make a trade they can't answer. It is what it is because you can't trade. There's no waivers, and you don't even have to set your lineup. You don't even have to sit on the toilet Sunday morning tinkering with your team. You don't have to do that because Underdog will automatically put your highest scores at the end of the week into your lineup. Underdog also features daily and best ball contests for the MLB, the NBA, PGA, and NHL, so you can get action all year long on Underdog Fantasy. It's not just a site where you can play football. Click on the link in the video description down below or use promo code Stokastic, STOKASTIC, to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So again, that Best Ball Resurrection Tournament, which I have played in already, I like Best Ball, I like drafting, is $10 to enter. So you would get 10 free entries if you deposit $100 because 10 times 10 is 100. So make sure you guys do check that out. I love drafting and I love Underdog Fantasy. I did a bunch of drafts on there in the offseason and I plan to continue to do more as the season goes along. They also have contests for like Thursday Night Football. You can do a draft. You can do a draft for all of Sunday, Sunday Night Football, and Monday Night Football as well. Next up, we move to the LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. Zach Ertz is okay. He's okay. Not too sure he's 100% healthy at this point. He was banged up going into the season. He hasn't looked great, but he is somewhat reliable, especially if this is going to be a high-scoring game with how Hollywood Brown has been pretty suspect. I feel like Zach Ertz is going to step up in this game and be incredibly viable. Tyler Higbee continues to get the targets. He's not really having this crazy production, but he keeps getting targeted. So if he keeps getting this volume, eventually one of these games, Tyler Higbee is going to fucking explode. He is going to have that really big game that where he can put your team on his back. Maybe not, because he's probably going to only get like 20 points on a big game, but that's still great for a tight end that you either picked up off the waiver wire or drafted in like the 11th round. So I like the upside of Tyler Higbee and Zach Ertz in this game. Again, I do believe this is one of the higher scoring matchups on the week. After the Rams and Cardinals, we move to the Atlanta Falcons at the Seattle Seahawks. Kyle Pitts. He's a start, but am I confident in Kyle Pitts? As Dikembe Mutombo would say, no. I'm not confident in Kyle Pitts. Arthur Smith, what are you doing? I talked about this in the quarterback video. Arthur Smith takes Cordero Patterson's career from the deep depths of the ground and fucking revives him. He does that Undertaker thing where he just gets right up. That's what Cordero Patterson did with Arthur Smith. Now, what the fuck is happening with Kyle Pitts? You figured out how to use this grown-ass 30-year-old fucking man who hasn't been that good in the NFL and turned him into this amazing player. Why can't you do that with Kyle Pitts, who is one of the most athletically gifted tight ends, if not the most athletically gifted tight end in the NFL? The dude's fucking huge. He's fast as fuck. He's like DK Metcalf. Yet, he doesn't get the ball. And then, Arthur Smith, this scumbag, after the game's like, why? The reporter goes, why are you not targeting Kyle Pitts? Why is he not getting the ball? And he says, you want to know why? It's because this isn't fantasy football. All we care about is winning. You want to know how you win the fucking game? You give the ball to your best players. You don't throw the ball to fucking Olamide Zacchaeus, all these other scrubs on the Falcons. You give the rock to London, to Pitts, my boy Drizzy Drake, London, Kyle Pitts, and then you give the ball to Cordero Patterson. Those are your playmakers. Give Pitts the fucking ball, man. And it's frustrating. This is a matchup where Kyle Pitts should be able to score a zillion points. The Seattle Seahawks defense should stand no chance to the mighty wrath of Kyle Pitts. But instead, what we're going to get is Kyle Pitts getting 3 fucking targets, 3 catches, 36 yards, and basically, Arthur Smith spits directly on your face. He goes, whoosh, right on your fucking face. And then Pete Carroll on the other sideline is going to be chewing gum. And honestly, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing that Kyle Pitts doesn't get the ball more. I don't even have Kyle Pitts on any of my fantasy teams, and it still pisses me off. It pisses me off to see a player that is as talented as Kyle Pitts not get the football. Again, you're going to start him because he's got that dog in him. He's got that big game in him. He has the game in him where he could score 35 points. But is it going to happen this year? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Noah Fant, he's all right. He's all right. The Seahawks offense is okay. It's not great, though. Noah Fant, not a guy I want to be starting. Next up, we move to the Green Bay Packers at the Buccaneers. The Bucs are down bad at receiver. Seems like Julio, Godwin not playing. Evans obviously suspended for playing UFC, trying to beat the fuck out of Lattimore. He tries to appeal the suspension. The NFL says, nope, psych. You're not doing that, pal. Get the fuck out of here. He's suspended for a game. So we're going to see Cameron Brate, Russell Gage, maybe the corpse of Julio, Brashad Perriman, these other receivers. If there's ever a game for Brate to be great, it would be here, but doesn't seem like Brady doesn't like tight ends unless their name is Rob Gronkowski. Robert Tonyan involved week 1, not so involved week 2. Week 2 was just a weird game. I mean, they rolled the Bears. It wasn't even really close. I think if the game is closer or they're fighting from behind against the Bucs, then we see a higher usage for Robert Tonyan, a higher target share for Robert Tonyan. His usage is high because he's out there. But in terms of actual target share, it was low in week 2. I think he bounces back at week number 3. Next up, we move to, you waited all day for Sunday night. The 49ers at the Denver Broncos. George Kittle me timbers. George Kittle got on the phone. Someone said, oh, hey, George, guess who's back? Back again. Garoppolo's back. Tell a friend, okay? And then George Kittle took his cast off, launched it across the room, says, I'm back, baby. Now, is Kittle actually a lock to play in this game? No. But, look, I was kind of worried about Kittle with Lance because I wasn't sure how much Lance wanted to target Kittle, and we didn't even get to see it because Lance got banged out of the game in week 2. So he never even got to see it because Kittle was gone. But we all know Jimmy Guwop, Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Pornstar loves throwing the rock to his buddy George Kittle. So if Kittle plays, you got to start him. Albert O disappoints week 2, plays decent week 1. If Jerry Jeudy doesn't play, I want to start Alberto. Again, far from the ideal start, but he'd be ranked around the tight end 14-15 range. After the first couple of tight ends, they really fall off the edge of the earth. Next game here, final game, Monday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys at the New York Football Giants. Dalton Schultz, banged up. Could play. If he plays, if I'm being honest with you, look, you can play Schultz if he plays, right? Because, he's still going to be getting targets. He's still going to be trying out there. Sure. But is he really going to help you win? Most likely not. The backup, I'm not starting him, especially with Cooper Rush under center. If Dak was under center, maybe I'll talk myself into it, but with Cooper Rush under center, no. And then Daniel Bellinger looks decent. Like, he doesn't look like some scrub tight end out there. But, come on, does he really move the needle? Like, the Dallas defense is pretty good. This game as a whole makes me want to just stab my eyes with a bunch of, like, if I was Edward Scissorhands, I'd just fucking punch myself right in the eye, like, stab myself in the eyes, because this game sucks absolute ass. The NFL scheduling just makes no sense. Talked about this in the quarterback video. Why the fuck do they schedule the Cowboys so much on TV? Like, I understand, they're the Cowboys, how about them boys? No one cares about the fucking Cowboys, man. We see it every year. It's such bullshit. Week 1, you get the Cowboys on primetime. It's week 3, and we already have another Cowboys game. Who the fuck cares? It's annoying. And then Daniel Jones, because the Giants are 2-0, Nick. Who the fuck cares that the Giants are 2-0? Daniel Jones is awful. It's annoying. And again, I'm not trying to go on a rant, sound like fucking Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless on here. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just get frustrated at stuff like this. It's like, why do they jam? And then I know for a fact we're going to get another game later on in the season. It's going to be like Cowboys versus Washington in prime time. Now, maybe that'll be a good game if Dak's back or something, but we just get all these shitty games. It's so annoying. The NFC East bias by these networks on Sunday night, Thursday night, Monday Night Football is egregious. It's egregious. I don't think we have that many Patriots games in prime time. That would be hard to watch. There's a couple of teams that get a lot of bias. The Steelers as well. But the Steelers, at least, typically, it's against, like, the Bengals or something, and it's kind of fun. But this week, they get the Browns without Watson, so not very interesting. Again, sorry for going on in that ramble. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate all you guys. I love you guys all so much. If you have any questions about week number 3, it doesn't even have to relate to tight ends, make sure you hit that comment section down below. Just type in your question. Try to answer. I am about 18 hours away from answering questions, not 18 hours away from doing it, but I'm like 18 hours behind on comments. But normally I just get on, sit there for 30 minutes, fire back comments to you guys. So I really do appreciate that. If you don't get an answer instantly, that's why I normally do them in bulk. I really do appreciate you guys, though. Again, I love you guys all so much. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you guys check out Underdog Fantasy. Again, promo code Stokastic. I love you guys all so much. Have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, goodbye.